Hi kids, I am here with you another Bible reading. We just did one today, talking about the animal who spoke in the Bible, and the animal was a donkey, remember? If you watched the last video, you'd know that the animal that spoke was a donkey, and he had spoke because his owner kept beating him because he wouldn't go on his way because there was an angel standing in the road with a sword, but only the donkey could see it. The man could not see it until God gave the donkey power to speak. And then once the donkey started speaking to his owner, the angel with the sword appeared before the man as well, so he could see him. So he'd know why his donkey did what he did by not wanting to go on to the land. And the owner ended up getting killed for disobeying God and trying to hurt God's people. So today's story, we're going to be talking about one leader getting ready to leave and the new leader of the Israelites taking over. So we'll be talking about Moses and Joshua. And as always, we start out with a Bible verse. And this Bible verse for this story is Deuteronomy, and it is chapter 34, verse 10, which says, "And there arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face." There was never another prophet in Israel like Moses. Is what that means. And you can see a picture here of Moses seeing the promised land, which is Canaan. And looking over the desert to the land of Canaan, the land that God had promised them when he freed them from Egypt. All right, let's begin the story. During the years that the Israelites lived in the wilderness, Moses was a good leader. He tried always to make the people obey God and the laws God had given them while they camped at Mount Sinai. But Moses was just a man, and like everyone, he made mistakes. One day, he made a bad mistake of disobeying God before all the people. God had told Moses to speak to a certain rock, and water would come forth for the people to drink. Moses was not content just to speak to a rock. However, he took his rod and hit it too. God was displeased that Moses had acted in this way. He told Moses that, like the other disobedient ones, he had come from Egypt. He was not going to be able to go into the promised land of Canaan. Moses was sorry, but he knew that he had done wrong. And still, it was sad for him to know that after all these years of waiting in the wilderness, he was not going to get to go into Canaan with those who had trained to capture it. By the time the Israelites had fought the Amorites and the Moabites and made their way right up to the Jordan River and the land of Canaan, only 3 men were living of all the grown men who had marched out of Egypt: Moses, Joshua, and Caleb. Joshua and Caleb had been the only scouts who had given a good report when they had spied out the land of Canaan 40 years before. At that time, God had promised them that they would live to go into the land. Moses was 120 years old at this time, and his work was over, for he had led God's people from Egypt to the land God had promised them. God was going to choose another younger man to lead the Israelites in the battles to capture Canaan. Moses called the people together and told them the things he wanted them to be sure to remember. He told them about the things God had done for them. He gave them once more the laws God wanted them to obey. He reminded them to teach their children to worship God and keep his commandments. Then he sang a farewell song and taught it to the people. Finally, he laid down his hands on the new leader God had chosen. It was Joshua, the faithful scout and Moses' good friend, who had gone with him up on Mount Sinai. The power of God's Spirit that had been with Moses went to Joshua. All alone, Moses left the camp and climbed to the top of Mount Nebo, where God let him see the land of promise, even though he could not cross over to it. He saw the mountain where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were buried, the pasture where they had fed their cattle, the city of Jerusalem, and far away, the great sea. Moses was thankful that his people were at last going to live in this place after spending so many years as slaves and wanderers in the desert. While he was alone with God on the mountain, Moses died, and God himself buried him in a place that no one knows. The Israelites were very sad that Moses had left them, and they mourned for many days. They knew that no other would be quite able to take his place, for the Bible tells us that no other man talked with God so freely as a friend. But they trusted their new leader Joshua, and they knew that he too would lead them as God led him. And that's our story of one old leader dying, which was Moses, and the new leader Joshua getting to take over to continue on to leading the Israelites into the land of Canaan, the promised land that God had promised them. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's story. I hope you guys learned something from it. Let's bring those souls to Jesus. And God willing, I'll see you guys again soon with another Bible reading. Bye guys. God bless.
Just in time.